Todd, thanks for being here with me.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Um, what would you consider to be your three most important accomplishments as a city council member?
There's a lot to choose from. I'm going to pick the very first thing that I worked on. Whenever I ran for city council in 2020, we knocked on 10,556 doors, and heavily knocked in the Rocky Brook area, Camelot, and just throughout our door knocking, there was a constant noise that was coming from the West Fraser sawmill. And
Mm,
whenever we door knocked in Camelot, that was the number one issue, and it was an issue that had been happening for years, and nobody had any solution or any real relief to it. So I talked to him and I told him I was going to be persistent about it. I was going to make sure that I followed up and asked questions, talked to the mill, see what we could do. But that's easy to do as a candidate. Whenever I first came into office and I had my first meeting with Mayor Fuller, that was the very first thing I talked about. I said, this is a constant thing. And it wasn't just going until 7 p.m., it was going until 3 in the
oh,
morning.
wow.
And sometimes it went 24/7.
Mm,
COVID was happening. They were trying to make up for a lot of lost time and manpower. And it wasn't just me. Mayor Fuller is a great unifier and galvanizer. And he got with myself, the economic development team, talking to people at the sawmill, and bringing us together and trying to find a solution for it. We were able to find a solution. It's all the credit goes to West Fraser, the sawmill, and what they did was their debarking tumbler was the thing that was making the most noise. So built a facility around it, encapsulating it to keep a lot of the noise. And it's the difference is overnight. It's one of those things where it happened very early on in my term, and I think people have been used to living with so much peace and silence at this point that they forget that it was ever an issue. But that was the very first thing
mm.
that I tackled. That's one of my proudest accomplishments because it
Very
was,
tangible.
yes, very first thing. The other thing is, the second thing I would say is the roundabout at West Point Parkway
Mm-hmm.
and Sportsplex
Mm-hmm.
Parkway. If you all remember, before then it was just a T in the crossroad, and no one could get to the Sportsplex from the interstate unless going around. But whenever they created that passway through the Sportsplex Parkway, it created a pretty dangerous situation. There were only a two-way stop on the interstate and Sportsplex Parkway side, and it was no stop for anyone on West Point Parkway. And we have so many accidents
I
there.
remember.
At that time, I reached out to Chief Shane Healy, the chief of the police department, and I got a police report on from 2014 to 2022 how many accidents. There were 40 accidents there, and
Wow.
within that time frame, and but tragically, there were two deaths there. There was one that happened in April of 2020 before I took office. And then there was another accident that happened there in March of 2022. And, you know, I had been asking for a four-way stop there, but I was given reasons of why it couldn't happen. I remember the day that the accident happened where the gentleman died. I heard it from my house. I live in Hidden Lakes.
Oh, boy.
And I had emailed the mayor the Wednesday before. I had talked to him on the phone the Friday before, and that accident happened on a Monday. It was an 85-year-old man. He was transported to the hospital in Columbus, and he died a week later. And for someone like me who's been in combat, as led soldiers that's been killed in combat, that's a tough loss to take. I remained persistent on it for about a year. I was calling City Hall. I was talking to the mayor. I was talking to President Eddie Smith and trying to get some resolution there. We had the traffic circle was planning on coming, so I had asked for an expedited engineering plan so we could get that rolling a little bit quicker, but more importantly, that four-way stop. And so I called Eddie and I told him I had my limit with it. And by that afternoon, they had a four-way stop there. And since that day, hasn't been a serious accident with an injury included in it. And I'll just put it this way: the last three traffic accidents that happened on that intersection, all three vehicles came to a stop on their roof. I mean, it was very, very dangerous. So I was very, very proud whenever we were able to accomplish that. And then, of course, the roundabout came in, and people aren't happy about
I
roundabouts,
love
but they
roundabouts.
were happy about that one. They were happy about that one. And the engineering team did a great job. That's, again, a collaborative success for Ward 5 and really what we're doing and what we're trying to create. The third thing is the new addition to the outdoor pool for the Sportsplex. I grew up in Illinois being a lifeguard and learning that responsibility from a young age. And I know that I work out at the Sportsplex a lot and do a lot of swimming. And I know that it's easier to swim outside than it is inside. And to have that ability to have more opportunity for families to go, from, parents to lay out, or teenagers, and to also have a pool and a larger splash pad. It was a great addition. I took the opportunity, both George Allen from Ward 1 and I got together and talked about it, because we were the two council members that had, a public pool in their wards. And so we partnered together. We went to the aquatic feasibility studies. We went to the meetings. We were heavily involved in the process, and we were able to find not just a success for one of our wards, but for both of our wards. So it was kind of like a win-win-win for us. And so yeah, those are the ones that stick out in my mind of my top 3 successes.